Doctor of Chiropractic at the Rock Health and Wellness Center, and you are listening to Life with Jason Clemmons, DC. It's Monday, October 9th, and we are coming to you live from the Rock Health and Wellness Studios and live on 98.7 FM Walk by Faith Radio and all of the associated um, stations that you can listen to with the 987radio.com and the Live 365 app. So we're coming to you on Facebook at the Rock Health and Wellness Centers, on YouTube at Health from the Rock, and on X at Dr. Jason Clemmons. And so, yeah, it's Monday. We're glad to be here. I'm excited about another week. I'm excited about the opportunity to get to talk about health with you this week. We had a great day today. It's a holiday. I heard it had different names today, but we had a bunch of kids out of school. Came in, got adjusted. Teachers out of school got adjusted, and so we've had a good day at the Rock. We did some exercising this morning, and now we're ready for our show. So thank you guys for listening. I hope you guys are enjoying the show. I'm getting some feedback from you out there, which is good. You know, we're starting to get some haters. That's good. So we're stirring it up just a little bit. So that's fantastic. I'm not afraid of that. But we're getting a lot of support, and we're getting some feedback that you guys are listening to the show, that it's a lot of content, that sometimes maybe I go a little bit too fast. I will try to slow down. It's hard for me to do that, but I will try to slow down and so that you can follow us. If it is too fast for you though, and you want to catch us at a later time, you can always go back. You can catch us on the Facebook page. You go back to the Rock Health and Wellness Centers and look at all of the shows. We keep them archived on Facebook, and we also have them on YouTube as well. You might have to click, if you go to @Health from the Rock and then click on the live button or tab on that YouTube page, then you'll find all of the shows that we have there. So yeah, if it's too fast for you and you need to go back and listen to it, and you want to listen to it at parts of times, I know we're bringing a lot of content to you. I know that 5 nights a week is a lot of stuff that's for some of you. So don't worry about that. You always can go back and listen to it. If you're listening to us on the radio, we really appreciate it. We thank you. We've had some good feedback from our radio people. If you have any questions and you're listening to us on the radio, then all you got to do is send us a text, and it's at 806-794-0400. If you have any questions during the show, or you have any questions after the show, feel free to send us a text, and we'll try to get all those questions answered for you as we're going through there. I see some of you that are giving us some likes on the Facebook page, and that's awesome. So it's good to see that you're out there listening to the show, and maybe we're bringing something to you that helps you, makes your life better. So I wanted to just kind of go through to start the show. This is a really cool night for me. It's going to be kind of laid back, but I'm going to get into some thoughts on some things that I learned from a guy named Dr. John DeMartini. And he's a chiropractor out of Houston, but now he's a world-renowned guy, travels all over the world and teaches all over the world. And I got really lucky as a young chiropractor to have the opportunity to kind of get to listen to some of his stuff. And it was great for me at the time. It's been great for me as I've gone through my 19-year career so far of seeing patients. And so it's really cool to be able to share some of his ideas. But he is one of the people that really has a lot to do with the way that I see the world. And every time I've listened to him speak, he's a dynamic speaker. He's just really far out there with some of his thoughts, and it really it's awesome for me to get to hear him. So I'm just going to share some of the things. I don't have a book. He's got lots of books, and I've read lots of his books, but this is not the book review night. But this is just some information that I've learned from Dr. DeMartini that I think you might enjoy hearing. It'll be something that you might not have heard before, but it'll help you in some of the different, maybe the way that you see the world, and really get into some of that innate intelligence. So I think it's going to be great. But I did want to say something before we got into that Dr. DeMartini's stuff, and it's that um, I got to listen to a YouTube video on with Dr. Huberman and our Surgeon General, Dr. Vivek Murthy, in the Surgeon General of the United States, and they had a very calm, mature, intelligent conversation. And it was very impressive to listen to both of those guys because I know that it seemed like Dr. Huberman had some things he really wanted to ask, or maybe he disagreed with, or really wanted to push some buttons, and he was very calm and cool and collected and did a really good job with it. And Dr. Murphy is a super intelligent guy. He's a Harvard educated guy. I think he got his doctorate work, medical work at Yale. I mean, you can tell he's just a super calm, patient individual. Just seemed to me like I was very impressed. I was very impressed listening to both of them as they went through that podcast. And if you I'm not really going to recommend the podcast. If you want to go and listen to it, you can, because it, it's not what we do here in the health and wellness world, right? And it's one thing that from listening to I mean, as calm and peaceful and intelligent as it was, and maybe the problem is too intelligent for me. Maybe that's why it didn't vibe with me too good. But the one thing that I took from watching that video is that, and the one thing I want to share with our listeners of our show is that you are responsible for your own health, and you should never let anyone else take over that responsibility. My dad used to say when we were growing up, and he said two things. I'll share something about that here in a minute. But one of the things that he used to say, because we grew up I was at a horse ranch, and we had stallions on our ranch, and we people would bring their mares to our stallions, and we'd breed those mares. And one of the things that Dad would always say to me is, nobody takes better care of your horse than you do. And it took me a while to understand what he was saying by that. It was like what he meant. What did he mean by that? And he wasn't necessarily just talking about horses. He was talking about everything. The things that you think are important and the things that you value the most are the things that you're going to take care of the best, right? So if you get a brand new pair of shoes and you spent $300 for those shoes, man, you are not going to go run out there through the muddy street or a muddy road in your brand new shoes, right? You're not going to go cut the grass in your brand new shoes. You're going to go get your old shoes that are already worn out, but you're not about to go out there in your brand new shoes and cut the grass unless you win the Powerball or something like that, and you can get new shoes every day. But so what Dad was trying to say is that look, that nobody takes care of your stuff better than you do. And when you're taking care of somebody else's stuff, like you're taking care of somebody else's horse, they're always going to have some sort of statement or criticism or comment or something, because you're just not doing it quite as good as they could have done it. And so one thing I learned from that, by what, because those guys talked about vaccinations, they talked about the whole pandemic, they talked about the next pandemic. The Surgeon General said that 3 or 4 times during that conversation. He's like, we learned a lot from this pandemic, so that when the next pandemic comes, and we know that's coming, that we'll be ready for it. And I just thought to myself, how do you know it's coming? It never happened in my entire lifetime. I think the 1918 Spanish flu was the last major pandemic we had on the planet. Like, what do you mean we're having another one, right? And so I thought that was an interesting statement. But the thing that I just wanted to present for your consideration is that we transitioned somewhere along the way. Not, and maybe not the listeners of this show, especially if you're sticking around after Pratt on Texas and you're listening to some of this show. And if you are, I really appreciate it. But if you are, you're probably one of those people that pretty much handles your business, right? You're handling yourself, and you kind of got your own opinion. And you're not afraid to have your own opinion. But somewhere along the way, we transitioned as a group to the idea that we were going to submit our health to our doctors. We were just going to let them be the ones to tell us what to do when it has to do with everything about health. And I just really think that's the wrong approach. I really think I really do. I really think it's the wrong approach to give your authority of yourself over to someone else and say, "Well, just tell me what I'm supposed to do with myself." Now, I understand that you're busy and you want somebody who studies, but I tell my patients all the time, I work for you. You don't work for me. You're the one paying the bill. I'm not the one that's paying the bill for you to come here. You're the one that's paying the bill for you to come here. So so you are the one that ultimately is in charge of your health. I'm just trying to give you all of the information that I can to let you make the most educated decision. And when I was listening to that podcast, it really hit home, and I already knew this, but it just was like it just reiterated that idea in my brain that you're gonna let a group of people who have so many different influences on them. I mean, Dr. Murphy was talking about when he had made a recommendation, um, something about cigarettes or something, and e-cigarettes and e-cigarettes and alcohol maybe. And he made they were trying to make the recommendation from the federal government to the teenagers of America. Maybe you shouldn't be smoking those e-cigarettes and those and drinking that alcohol. And and he said he got lots of phone calls and emails from the lobbyists of the people who represented the alcohol industry and the e-cigarette industry complaining about that they didn't really need to put that in the legislation, and they really didn't need to talk about that. They really didn't need to make that point because man, it's not like that's unfair or whatever. And there's so much of that that goes on behind the scenes that we really don't know, that we don't hear about. And then all of a sudden, we're going to let those people stand up and tell us the way that we're supposed to handle our bodies. Like it's going to be like they're dictating it to us, right? And and I just would really I'm just going to present for your consideration that that's not the way to go. What the way to go is to get for you to get as much information as you can about yourself, and then you be the one that makes the decisions. And I'm not saying that you know all of that, that you know everything there is to know about. Like if you're going in for cancer surgery, you're really counting on that doctor to help you with cancer treatment or whatever, right? If you're my mom went and had her knee replaced a little over a week ago, and she doesn't need to go in and tell the surgeon how to do a knee replacement. That's not what I'm talking about. But leading up to the knee replacement, I think it's like do your due diligence. Talk to some doctors, look around at some different things, study some things on the internet. And there was another statement that happened today that goes along with this, that one of my one of my new patients this afternoon, she came in and she said, you know, um, I've got that. She had some hip pain, and I didn't really know what to do, so I looked on the internet to kind of see what I should do. And they, I don't know. She's like, that may not be the best thing to do. But you know, I know that that's probably not where you should get your information. And all of a sudden, for the first time today, at 2 o'clock this afternoon, it hit me that that sentence is old. Like I'm going to present that we should transition past that. You don't have to do that anymore. You don't have to say that. Now there's a lot of things on the internet that can lead you in all kinds of crazy directions, and there's a lot of people on the internet that are selling a bunch of stuff that might lead you in the wrong direction. And there's a lot of things out there that's just for greed, right? But there's some really good stuff on the internet, and there's a lot of things out there that people are putting on the internet. Like we all know that if you want to learn something, You want to retile your floor, you can go to YouTube and learn how to retile your floor, right? You can go how to learn how to look up your whatever your I was gonna say I was gonna say you can go look up your hook up your VCR, but I mean that's old school stuff, right? But I'm just saying you can go to the internet and learn some stuff. You might just consider where you're learning it from. You just might consider where you wanna go with that and exactly who you wanna learn that from. But if you've got a good group of guys, I think I've got a good group of guys on the internet, that I go to, that I listen to about different topics, and I think they're solid people, and I think they're giving me some solid information, and when I go search at different places, I've mentioned Dr. Murphy, Dan Murphy on the show before, and, I'm getting solid information when I go listen to anything that Dan says. I think I'm getting solid information on a lot of the stuff I learned from Jordan Peterson and from Dr. Huberman and some of the other places that I go to. I think I just today was the first time that I actually had that sentence said said to me, that because you've heard it so many times, how you really shouldn't go to the WebMD, or you shouldn't go to whatever and figure out what's wrong with you by going to the internet, and that's fair enough. Like that's fine, but there are some really good spots on the internet that you can go to. So, but the same thing happens with the government. And I know you guys know this, but I just after listening to that conversation, I just don't think that you should just go hook, line, and sinker into everything that you're going to hear when the government comes out and says this is what you should do with your health. I think you should listen to. They act like it's all scientific, and they act like it's all evidence based, and they act like it's all this, like they've got the answers to the whole thing. And I'm not buying that. I'm not buying the idea that that's true. And so just want to present. Don't give anybody the authority to make the decisions. Now, and I know someone's going to say something about abortion, and I'm not talking about that. I'm not talking about that. I think that there are things. I mean, I'm not going to get into that subject. I'm just saying that be careful. Just be careful when you're listening to the people that you are supposed to trust. Because one of the things that Dr. Murthy said was, well, what happened in the pandemic was that we polarized from each other. We took all or nothing of everything. So it's like you were either all in with everything that they said, you know, isolate yourself, wear your mask, take your vaccine, do all the stuff, or you were all out on everything they said, and then you were just anti all of it, right? And so, and those aren't my words; those are his words. And he said what they learned from that is that maybe there was some of it that was good and some of it was bad, but the presentation kind of polarized people. And and I argued that from the very beginning. I argued that, hey, we don't have any quarterbacks out there. We don't have any leaders. The leaders that are leading us aren't leading us to properly. That's why we all separated. If the leaders were leading us properly, we would have been a little bit more cohesive on how we were going to handle it. But there was so much crap going on during that time that people got led astray. They got led astray on both sides of that deal, but they got led astray. And when I'm talking to you, I'm trying not to talk to just the people out there, right? I'm actually trying to talk to you as an individual person, that you and I every night from 6 to 7 come on this show and we have a conversation with each other, and that hopefully the things that we talk about are helpful in your lifetime. So I'm really talking, I'm trying not to be so general with everything. I'm really specifically talking to you. If you're watching this show, I'm talking to you so that your life can be better, right? And if you've got something that we need to talk about, then feel free to text me back or let me know, and we can and try to improve your life right there. So the other thing that my dad said, which is really, it's kind of funny. I finished the show on Friday night, and it was a good show. We had a good show on Friday, and then I went over and hung out with my parents this weekend. And I walked in the house, and Dad said, "Hey, I got some advice for you." And sometimes when he said that, he's really serious and he's trying to help me out. And I'm like, all right, so what do you got? And he said, "Well, last week," he said, "in the past, you've already taken away our bread, and you've already taken away our alcohol, and so tonight you're stepping on our toes a little bit when you start talking about taking away our ice cream." He said, "You're going to start losing people. You're going to start losing your clients, and people are going to start turning you off if you take away their ice cream." And so I laughed and I told Dad, I said, I'm going to tell everybody on the radio that you told me that. And he's like, "Go ahead, you can tell them that." So, Dad, if you're listening, I told him, and I take your advice. I heed what you're saying there. I'm listening to him, but I still got to tell him that ice cream is poison. You should get rid of it and leave it alone. It's not going to help you any, and you're going to end up regretting it in the long run. So, um, that's how that goes, and we'll just leave the ice cream thing there for the moment. So anyway, let's get on with talking about some of this Dr. DeMartini stuff. So when I was coaching football, when I first got into chiropractic, right? And you guys know my story. You guys have been watching for a while. I was coaching football at Texas Tech with Coach Dykes. Spike Dykes was my boss, and he retired. And whenever you retire in the in the coaching business, you just lose your job. Like all the assistant coaches, a lot of times don't get to stay with the new coach that comes in. And Mike Leach was the new coach that came in, and he didn't know any of us, and he was just getting his head coaching career started, really. So we all lost our jobs, and so I went to work at my brother-in-law's chiropractic office, and I've talked about that. You guys know that if you've been watching the show, and if you haven't, you can go back to some of the early shows, and I'll break all that down. I see your text, JT. That's funny. Um, but I my brother-in-law was a big fan of this guy named John DeMartini, who was a chiropractor out of Houston. And so all of a sudden, right off the bat, I got exposed to some thinking that was way outside what I was used to growing up. Like I had never heard anybody talk about some of the things that Dr. DeMartini had talked about, and I'd never heard him talk about it in the way that he had talked about it. And so all of a sudden, I got this. I mean, he is out there. Like he was a very dynamic, go getter, extroverted human being, that just that understood and he just made himself a pack. Like his stories, and I don't know how much of his stories are true. He's got a bunch of stories, and they're really really touch your heart stories. But he started he had and he's I mean, he's super smart. He's a super smart guy. If you want to know some stuff and you want to learn some stuff, you can look him up. John DeMartini, DeMartini. John DeMartini is his name. And he's been teaching all over the world. I mean, like he teaches to he speaks to these big multi-million dollar corporations. Mary Kay was one of his friends from the makeup person that he talked to their company lots of times, and he's spent his life going all around the world, teaching all around the world to hundreds of thousands of millions of people now by this point. Some of the things that he talked about, and in chiropractic, we look at three things. We look at physical, chemical, and mental emotional stress. And the founding fathers, we talked about that on Friday night, right? When we were talking about Joe Rogan's idea of chiropractic and how he didn't like us and all that stuff. And he's just misunderstood. That's all. He just doesn't understand it quite good enough yet. Maybe we'll coach him up on that. But um, the the founding guys, D.D. Palmer and B.J. Palmer and those guys at the very beginning, they called it toxins, trauma, and autosuggestion. It was the things that break down the body, right? And so in our office, we call it physical, chemical, and mental emotional stress. And everybody gets it when it comes to physical, right? My body's not functioning properly. I hurt my back, I hurt my neck. I drove 17 hours to Georgia and back or whatever. I had that sentence today. I lifted something wrong. I slept wrong. I did some sort of physical work that messed me up, right? Everybody gets that. And then there's chemical stress. And chemical stress, which the old timers call toxins, right? That can be paint thinners, insecticides, pesticides, cleaning materials, inks, glues, those type of things. or it can be, like that ice cream, that high refined carbohydrate or high fructose corn syrup or artificial colors and sweeteners and all of those things that we get inside the body that the body was never supposed to have in the first place. And then the last one is mental emotional stress. And we've talked a lot about that on the show so far. We've talked about the how the body keeps the score. We've talked about what happens when you're not getting that right side to left side transition of brain activity and the depression and the attention deficit disorder and all the things that go along with it, right? We've talked about um, multiple ways that you could get mental emotional stress, and adrenaline's on the right side and dopamine's on the left side, right? We've gone through a lot of that stuff, but we don't sometimes we don't really think about that. My mental emotional stress might be causing my my pain. My mental emotional stress might be causing my neuropathy, or it might be causing my diabetes, or it might be causing, you know, my back pain or my headaches or whatever. And so we're fixing to come up on a break, but when we get back from the break, I want to share the information that Dr. DeMartini shared with me when I was just now getting into chiropractic or just starting in chiropractic, that helped me work myself through some of those mental emotional stresses. And I think you'll think it's really good. We'll be right back. Yeah, so we got a little break going on the radio. If you guys have any questions or anything or any comments about the show, thanks for the share, Ken. I really appreciate it. I appreciate you helping me with the show and trying to get that out there. And if you guys are listening and you guys wouldn't mind it would really help a lot if you shared. If you don't mind it, you could share it with your friends and see if, maybe somebody out there might listen to something that we're talking about that might help them be better. That's kind of what we're trying to do with the show. So, oh shoot, um, I had the mic on. I apologize for that. But that's something that if you don't mind, that'd be great. It would help the show. It'd help reach more people. And I'm sure you've got someone out there in your life that could use some of this information that might help them live a better life, right? And that's what we're trying to do here on this from 6 to 7. We're just trying to share information that helps people live a better life. And that's why I try to watch the stuff on the weekends, and I try to bring that stuff to you and just give you my take on it, right? It's not my take doesn't mean it's right or wrong. My take is just that's part of the reason, like we're doing the book reviews on Wednesday, is and I'm not ready to announce which one I'm gonna um do so far. So that it's um yeah, hang on one second. But yeah, so if we can get some of this information to your friend, to your friends or family, then that's what we're really trying to do with the show, right? So, um, yeah, Ken was texting me and let me know that I left the mic on the radio station. So, but yeah, if you guys are listening to the show and you want to share it with someone, um, that would be great. And if you have something that you want me to cover, send me a text. Like I'd be glad to look something up for you if you have an idea that I'm not covered on the show, or if there's something you're dealing with your health, and you would like me to address that for you, then I'd be glad to do that. Of course, I will never use your name um, on the show unless you want me to use your name on the show. But I'd be glad to study a specific topic and break that down for you. So, all right, here we go. Hey, everybody, we're back. Sorry, I had the mic going on that last break there. I clicked it and I must have missed the button. So I apologize for that. I covered up some of our advertisers, and I didn't mean to do that. So So let me talk about some mental emotional thoughts, some thoughts that you might have when it comes to mental emotional stress, and hopefully it might be able to help you break some things down a little bit, because Dr. DeMartini is just he's just an amazing guy. He presented some ideas to me in the early parts of my life that was it was really they were things that no one else had ever said that I really ever thought about. Like like remember we talked about that innate intelligence, and that you have an innate intelligence inside your body that runs your body, that runs all of your cells, that does all that stuff, right? And so when it comes to innate intelligence, we don't really understand, we don't really get what that means. But I want to read a little bit about amino acids to you, and this comes from Dr. Um, this is something that I learned, that one of the handouts that I got from Dr. DeMartini. But he says, if the 20 amino acids used to construct enzymes are selected at random and arranged in random order, what would be the chance of obtaining an actual bacterial enzyme with 200 amino acids? The answer is obtained by multiplying the probability for each correct amino acids in the sequence, 1 in 20, together 200 times, yielding 1 in 20 to the 200th. That's a vastly low probability. But since more than one amino acid sequence might be able to function to catalyze a given reaction, the author concedes a probability of 1 in 10 to the 20th. So what he's talking about is you need amino acids to make enzymes in order to make cells function right? But now, to duplicate a bacterium, it would not suffice to create a single enzyme. So in order to get one single enzyme, the probability of taking the 20 amino acids, and now there's 22 or 24, I don't know what we're at this point, but if amino acids are the building blocks of proteins, right? Is what we get from our when we eat our proteins. So amino acids are used to make enzymes, and enzymes help cells function. And so what he's saying here is to make an enzyme for a cell, it's the probability of getting those 20 amino acids lined up in a sequence 200 times, because it has to be 200 times long, is 1 times 10 to the 20th, which is a bunch. So to duplicate a bacteria, it would not suffice to create a single enzyme. Instead, it would be necessary to assemble about 2,000 functioning enzymes. So if we're going to make a bacterium, we got to have 2,000 enzymes. And the 2,000 enzymes are made up of 20 amino acids in strands 200 long. So basically, the odds of this would be 1 in 10 to the 20 times 2,000, or 1 in 10 to the 40,000, right? So if you know anything about math, that's a lot. Well, to give you some frames of reference, the total number of hydrogen atoms in the universe is something like 10 to the 60th. So 10 to the 40,000 is unthinkably improbable. If the total number of trials for life to get going is only 10 to the 51st, and the chances are 1 in 10 to the 40,000, the life just could not have occurred. Like it, and that's what they're saying. These two guys, this Hoyle and Wicker something, gave up on spontaneous generation since the likelihood of the event was comparable to the chances of a tornado sweeping through a junkyard might assemble a Boeing 747 from the material within. We've gotten so much data these days talking about exactly what is, like, well, we just evolved from this, and we evolved from this, and the science says we evolved from this, and it's like, well, okay, but would you break that down? Break down how you got to line up 20 amino acids in a sequence 200 long. Like if we let's just say 26 letters in the alphabet, and you have to make a word, you have to make one word that's 200 letters long. But you have to make 2,000 of those words in order to get one bacterium to function properly. And you've got somewhere between 70 trillion cells inside your body, right? No, like it just there's some sort of intelligence that made that work, right? The heart. Let's talk about the heart. The heart works without interruption for 70 to 80 years, without care or cleaning, without repair or replacement. Over a period of 70 years, it beats 100,000 times a day. Did you know that? It's about 100. If you have a heart rate of 72 beats per minute, your heart is beating about 103,000 times a day, approximately 40 million times per year. It's 37 something million times per year, nearly 3 billion pulsations all told. It pumps 2 gallons of blood per minute, well over 100 gallons per hour, through a vascular system about 60,000 miles in length, over 2 times the circumference of the earth. It's like I'm coming off of coaching football, and then all of a sudden, I'm starting to listen to somebody talk about something like that, and I was like, "What? What is he talking about?" Like that. And then I had to break that down. So every time I listened to Dr. DeMartini talk, I would have to go I'd listen to him talk, and then I'd go break that down. And I would say, okay, um, I was like, all right, what exactly is what exactly is he talking about? And then I would do the math. Like when I read that passage just to get ready for the show tonight, I read it again and I was like, are you serious? Like 103,000 times a day? Your heart beats? I mean, we could do the math on that, right? If you have a 72 beat per minute, 72 beats per minute times 60 minutes in an hour is 4,320 beats in an hour times 24 hours is 103,680 beats. Your heart is beating 103,000 times a day times 365 days is 37,843,000 times your heart's going to beat in a year times 70 years is 2.6 billion times, right? That's what Dr. DeMartini is saying right there. And what he's saying is that you don't have to tell your heart to beat once. Like you won't in 70-year period of time, one time actually make your heart beat faster or slower yourself unless you're doing the Wim Hof breathing or cold water therapy or something like that, right? You don't have to worry about your heart beating because you have an innate intelligence inside your body that's helping your body. It knows how to run your body. You just have to get your body in an environment that's congruent with health. If you get your body in an environment that's congruent with health, your body has an intelligence inside itself to run its own self. It doesn't need your help to run itself. It just needs you to put it in an environment that's congruent with health. And if you're not in an environment that's congruent with health, it creates a symptom to give you feedback to let you know that you have some physical, chemical, or mental emotional stress somewhere. And one of the things that Dr. DeMartini says when it comes to some sort of symptom, right? So if you and he gives lots of other examples of that, but when it talks about a specific symptom and how your body comes up with a symptom, and it's a really interesting thought right here. It's like a physical, and he's actually talking about the subluxation. And so he's talking about the physical definition of the subluxation, and he's talking about an imbalanced spinal function. Let me say it again. An imbalanced spinal function arising from an imbalanced neuromotor function. That's what we're always talking about in the brain, right? Resulting from an imbalanced neurosensory function, how you feel about in the brain, due to an imbalanced perception, which is stress, which is basically what you define something to be and how you defined it to be, and the world did not match what you defined it to be. And he was the first person that broke that down for me because we didn't talk about that. Believe it or not, we didn't talk about this stuff when I was coaching football. And I hope Coach McGuire and those guys over at Tech are not talking about it either. I hope they're talking about getting ready to play Kansas State. But the the thing that he would present to me is like he present the idea of our perception of the world, and he would present the idea of how we get caught up in good and bad. And there's a lot of it going on right now in the world, and I'm not defending anything. I'm not getting political with my statement. I'm trying to talk about health with some of this, but I want to just kind of show. I want to show you some of the idea. One of the ideas that Dr. DeMartini taught me, and he taught me that um, from like life is a sine wave. Like we are the light of the world, right? We know that, right? And light is life. Like it is. We are the light. The sun is life, and it's all about life. And the light, and it travels in a sine wave. And a sine wave has a starting point and an ending point in that wave. And what he broke down for me was inside that wave, we have positive trough and we have a negative trough. So if you're listening on the radio, you can kind of draw that. You draw a wave, right? And then that's a sine wave. You have an up portion, then you have a down portion. And the up portion is positive, and that's something that we call good. And the down portion is negative, and that's something that we call bad. And what Dr. DeMartini presented to me is that is always balanced. It's balanced between good and bad. Life is balanced. It's not imbalance is only a perception that you have. And he would ask the question, where is God not? It's like, hold up a second. If God's omnipresent and he's omnipowerful, where is he not? He's not anywhere, right? So he's everywhere. So it's not like he's not seeing what's going on. So where the problem is our perception of what's going on. So the other thing he would say is what happens when you cut a magnet in half? And I don't know if we talked about this on the show, but we're going to talk about it again tonight. Let me draw it over here. What happens when you cut a magnet in half, right? If you have a positive pole and a negative pole of a magnet, and you cut that magnet in half, what you end up with is two magnets. And you can Google that if you want to, because I just got through doing it just to make sure that the information I've been saying for 19 years is factual, right? If you have a bar magnet and you cut it in half, what ends up happening is those polarities take the place, and you end up with positive and negative and positive and negative, and you have two magnets. And if you cut that magnet in half, then you have two magnets, and you cut that magnet in half and that magnet in half. And if you keep cutting that magnet so thin that you can't cut it anymore, what you'll end up with is what you'll see right there is that the positive and the negatives are right next to each other, and they always are. There's not a positive without a negative. There's balance in the universe. And so when people come into me and they're like, hey, doc, how's your day? I'll tell them it's fabulous. And to me, what fabulous means is that half of my day is awesome and half of my day sucks. And that's complete balance. Because this little point right here, and the quantum physics people, they'll get on my case on this one because I don't know exactly. I've read about it, but I can't explain it all the way. But there's something about the Higgs boson, the God particle, right? There's a particle right there in a sine wave that's neither positive nor negative. It just is. That's just the balance of things. And that's where the peace is. And that's where the love is. And that everything that this is not a 70s hippie show, right? This is health right here to me. This is my take of what Dr. DeMartini talked to me about health. Love is the balance. That's what this whole thing is about, is to bring us back to the middle. If I walk around and I think I've had such an awesome day, and I go up on the top of this sine wave, and I go up here to the top of it, then what's going to happen is someone's going to come along and they're going to show me how bad my other half is. I'm going to balance myself out. If I'm having a really good day and I think I'm superstar, I'll go, Leslie will show me, no, you're not so awesome. There's a lot of things around here that could be better. And the same thing happens the other way. If I go home and I'm in the dumps because I really think I screwed this whole thing up, then she'll lift me back up and bring me back to the middle, because the whole point is to get me back to the middle where the love is. And what I've learned is that the bipolar person is all up and down, and the master is right here. The master is right on the line. The more minutes that you can keep yourself on the line, the more peace and calm that you have, right? And so the perception, the perception, and I'll draw that magnet again, right? If you have a positive and a negative magnet, and you cut the magnet in half, you get two magnets, a positive and a negative, and a positive and a negative, right? There's always a positive and a negative that's happening. There's always balance in the universe. And we're going through some crap right now in the world, right? We got a whole bunch of stuff happening in the world, and what we've been perceiving is half the magnet. Man, my day sucked. You know, you ask somebody, how's your day going? Oh, it sucked. It was horrible. And it was like, no, actually, only half of your day sucked. The other half of your day didn't suck. So where is it? Where is the other half of your day? What are you not paying attention to about in the other half of your day that would, where you can see the good in the other half of your day and bring you back to the middle, right? And or the same thing happens. A person will come into the office and they'll be like, man, I'm having an awesome day. And I'm like, in my brain, sometimes I'll tell them, sometimes I won't. But in my brain, it's like you're only having half of an awesome day. The other half of your day sucks, but you just don't realize it. And I know that sounds bad, but that's the truth. It's the truth. It's there's just balance in the universe. You want to look at an atom, right? Then the atom has protons and neutrons in its core, and it's got its electrons on the outside, and the electrons are negative. So if it's got 3 protons that are positive in the nucleus, in the middle of the atom, then you've got 3 electrons that are negative on the outer shells to balance out the whole thing. So you can go all the way down to the size of an atom, or you can go all the way to the size of the universe. It doesn't make any difference. It's just balanced, right? And what we will spend a lot of our time in a day. We will spend a lot of our time in a day being unbalanced. We will have a perception of life. And this is the other thing, and we may have talked about this on the show, but I want to talk about it again. Your value system, right? You work on your value system, and whatever the things that are on the highest of your values, the things that you value the most, are where you're going to spend your time, energy, and talent, right? And the value system it's right there. I think we talked about this when it was health, how you tie it into your value system, right? But if you wonder for yourself, how are you making your decisions? What are the things that you are doing in your lifetime? And where are you spending your time, energy, talent, money, resources, all those sort of things, right? And if you're not 100% sure what your value system is, just look where you're spending your time, energy, and talent. And when you realize that you have your own unique value system, and I have a value system, and it may be completely different than your value system. And the things that are at the highest of your value system, and there's yours and mine, right? So the things that are highest on yours, that are highest on mine, are the things that you like me for. And the things that are lowest on yours, that are highest on mine, are the things that you don't like me for. Let me see if I can make that a little more clear. If there are certain things that I value, and there are certain things that you value, like I might value chiropractic. I might value the chiropractic adjustment. That might be high on my value system. And you may be someone that has you don't value chiropractic, right? You're just completely opposite of that. Like you've had some bad experience, or you don't believe it works, or you got some sort of issue with it, or whatever, or your girlfriend ran off with a chiropractor, some whatever your problem is, right? You got some sort of problem that's causing you not to like chiropractic. Then your chiropractic, you might have it really low on your value system. And so when we start talking about things that are when we meet each other, there and I start talking about the things that I value, and they're way down on your value system, you're not going to like me for that. And we're gonna have friction between each other. Now, which one of us is right and which one of us is wrong, right? It's like, wait a minute. It doesn't mean either one of us is right or either one of us is wrong. It just means that the things that you value are not the same things that I value. And so we might not want to hang out with each other. That's cool. Like we're totally fine like that, right? And so Dr. DeMartini is the first person that really broke that down for me. I never had anybody really in that particular manner kind of break that down for me like that. And then here's another thing that he shared with me, and it's like, you know, we say we want to be healthier. We say that health is important to us, but if we actually break down our value system, health is not anywhere at the top of our value system. Like we're going to spend way more money on our car. We're going to spend way more time and energy with our family. We're going to spend way more time and energy at our business. We're going to spend way more time and energy on our radio show. Like it's just going to be, we're going to spend, this is what's important to us, right? But and health, it just gets pushed down and pushed down and pushed down the list because it's not highest on our value system until all of a sudden we lose our health and we don't have health anymore. And then all of a sudden it's like, dadgummit, how do I get my health back? Right? Then we'll move that up. And one thing that Dr. DeMartini taught me was, it's like, if you want to, let's just say family is at the top of your value system and health is down here somewhere seventh or eighth or ninth. It's kind of low on your value system. Every time something presents itself, that's that when family's going to come first, you're going to push health down next. You're going to say, well, I want to eat healthy this week. I want to eat healthy this week. Except for Tuesday night, we got a concert, and Wednesday night we got church with the youth group, and Thursday night we got there's some sort of JV ball game that's going on, and then Friday night we got a varsity ball game, and then Saturday night we're going to go to the tech game. So, okay, well, how are we going to eat healthy if we're doing all those things, right? Well, if your value system, if you don't figure out how to get health up here to the top of your value system, you won't eat healthy because those other things are more important to you, right? And I didn't, I didn't have anybody break that down for me before. I might have known it. I might have learned it in a health class somewhere along the way, but I never really had it until Dr. DeMartini came along that actually said, hey, look, what you've got to do is you've got to take health and you've got to move it up and tie it into how it's best for your family. And there's actually a process that he goes through that to actually do that. And one of the things is to go write down 20 to 30 times how being healthy is good for your family. You know, my wife, when I stopped eating sugar 19 months ago, she's lost 40 something pounds and is in the best shape of her life. She's probably never been, I don't know, maybe when she was a teenager, she's healthier. We've been together 36 years yesterday. So I've known her for a long time. She is in a super great place right now. And it it all was secondary to me when I decided to stop eating sugar. When I made that choice, it made her life better. And so that's just an interesting thought that I had. And the whole idea with balance, we're running out of time for the show, and we may carry over a little bit of this tomorrow night. But the idea is that I, I've I just wanted to share some of that information, and I'm really going to break down. I'm going to finish it tomorrow night because I don't want to just leave us right here. I know that it was a little bit disjointed tonight, but the idea we'll see if we can clean it up tomorrow night on the first part of the show, and then we'll carry on with what we're going to do from there. So, um, sorry that was a little bit. I didn't quite break that down quite as good as I thought I could, but we'll start it tomorrow night and see if we can make it better. So, I appreciate you guys listening. If you have anything that you'd like for me to break down, send it to me on the either send it to the text 806-794-0400 or give us a shout out on Facebook and we'll see if we can get you taken care of. Otherwise, you guys have a great evening and we will see you tomorrow.